But will they see us?
Hey everyone, they will shortly see you. Hey everyone, welcome. Hey, glad everybody can make it. So yeah, so how's everybody doing? In a second, I'll turn on the camera so you can see everyone. But I just want to say thank you for coming out. Happy holidays. You made it. End of semester. We just wanted to get together and do one last hurrah with everybody. So here we go. And as you can see, I have my Christmas hat. Oh, and I have my Christmas drink here. So I'm going to do that. And thankfully, I'm not doing this alone. So let me turn this on. So we have some other instructors here from UBC. Very excited. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay and how can hear them. So yes, say hello to everybody. So let's see who we've got here. Besides me, everybody hopefully knows who I am. We got from chemistry, we have Jay Wickenden and Zach Hudson. From the different biology departments, we've got Lynn Norman, we got Lacey Samuels, we got Karen Smith from micro and botany and zoology combined. And then finally, the mighty Gregor from computer sciences here. I'm so excited. I've never met Gregor. And based on like UBC Reddit and all the memes, I need to ask him about natural recursion, I think, from what I understand. So yeah, so just want to check, can everybody hear me okay and can hear them? Just let me know if you can't. And they're watching the stream too, so they'll be able to see questions and comments. But anyway, oh yes, Zach, did you show your dog?
I did. The dog was on for the entire
Oh, sorry, I was staring at the stream here. So I know a bunch of people asked for Wesley, so that's go. My dogs are, I don't know where they are, but anyway. So anyway, again, welcome everyone. I'm so excited you could all come and hang out with us. I'm so excited that some other instructors could come. As you know, I've been doing different things throughout the semester, and other people have as well, just trying to, foster a sense of community. And the semester is finally over. You made it. And so we wanted to just have, like I said, one last hurrah and talk about it. So I'm not going to spend all the time talking. I'm going to do a few things here, and then we'll get to some games at the end for those that want to stick around and play. I'm going to do some Drawful and some Among Us. Zach, as you know, plays Among Us with me sometimes, so you can vote us off the ship if you want, if he sticks around. So
my classic move in Among Us is to be killed immediately.
Yeah, I know. there was a couple games where Zach and I were just knifed in the back and gone like instantly. It was crazy. So yeah, anyway, that's funny. Oh yeah, so just so you know, instructors, if you're watching the stream, make sure you mute the stream, because otherwise you'll hear me through both, just to let you know. So I did invite a few others. Dr. Vivian Lamb said she might be able to come if she shows. Dr. Ben Chung from psychology might come. He wasn't sure. So you might see some others pop in and out. We'll see. So first thing is, we just wanted to kind of chat with you, let you know our experiences, what we thought about the semester. So I guess I'll just throw it to the panel. Let's call it a panel here, the Christmas panel. And I don't know who'd like to start, but what was your overall feeling from this semester? I mean, this is kind of such a bizarre semester we had. It's so weird, and it was weird for all of us. So who'd like to start? I mean, we could just start at the top on my screen. We could go with, Zach, you put up your hand. You want to start?
Yeah, sure. I would say like the first word that came to my mind is actually proud. I think the students overall did their best to adapt, and overall people were pretty tired and definitely, missing out on the social aspect of it. But I was really proud of you guys. I think you rolled with it as best as you could. And I think a lot of people tried to make the best of it. And it was a pleasure teaching this term, honestly. I thought I would hate it, and I didn't hate it. And the reason I didn't hate it was because you guys were great. So yeah, that's my feeling.
All right. Anybody else? Who's next? Will I just pick on people, or?
Yeah, I'll go.
We'll do the chemists first. We'll do the chemists.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll do the chemists out of the way.
Get them out of the way.
We got a party we got to get to after. So, I taught in the summer, so I kind of had an idea what it was like. I think the students, the big difference between the summer and the fall semester is just numbers. And so I think, the students did a really good job of keeping up with schoolwork. It's, time management is even more important, it seems, in the online world, because it's so easy to be distracted by like your bed or like what's in the fridge. So I think it went well. I think students performed as we expect them to perform as second or first year students at UBC. So yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was good.
All right. How about some of the, Gregor, do you go? Let's do the computer scientist.
I absolutely agree. I think, I think obviously it was very, very tiring for everybody. I think there's all sorts of subtle subtle reasons having to do with just little things like how your brain works that made it much more tiring, certainly for me than normally. But I was pretty pleased with how everybody did. We had almost all of our students in every lecture from beginning to end. People worked really hard. We only slightly reduced the material, a very little bit, and we ended up with a good average grade in the course. So yeah, I was really, really, really pleased with how hard our students worked and how well they did under the circumstances. It would have been hard and well under any circumstances, and then there were the circumstances. So that's great.
Yeah. And Gregor, somebody's asking, are you the guy in the EDX videos? I don't know what they're referring to, but I thought I'd ask since somebody asked.
Yeah, those are my videos. Yeah.
Okay. And you're famous on all kinds of fronts, aren't you?
No, we were lucky to get to spend some money to develop our resources, and it's really helped us with teaching the courses here.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Outside investment.
Well, let's throw it to the biologists now. I don't know who wants to start. Anyone? Lynn, you're at the top, so do you want to take it away?
Well, I'm thinking two things right now. First, I'm also so proud of the students. I can't adequately express how incredibly proud I am of what they've accomplished this term in really sort of different and challenging times. But the other sort of idea that's competing in my brain is I'm also incredibly thankful to them, because they were so understanding of me as I was kind of going on this learning curve. I had used Collaborate Ultra in the summer, but the students this term asked me to use Zoom. And so I switched to Zoom. And so I was starting close to ground zero, and they were so understanding of like me being on a learning curve, and I had time management issues. Everything seemed to take 3 times longer than I thought. And it was such an amazing semester for me. And that's because of the students and how amazing they are and how understanding they were and supportive. And I asked them for feedback, and they gave me awesome feedback. I'm so proud and thankful, basically, is what that comes down to for me. Yeah.
Okay. And also, I need to ask Lynn, because somebody's saying somebody misses your Timbits. Did you have Timbits in class at some point? What is this?
I couldn't this term, but normally
Yeah.
I do bring Timbits to class. This is actually the reason I do it, because is when I was an undergrad student myself, I took an astronomy course for fun, and my astronomy prof was amazing. And I cannot remember her name now, it's too long ago, but she lived on a farm in central Saanich, and she brought in fresh squeezed apple juice and homemade cookies from her farm. And I remember how that made me feel. And when I decided that I wanted to teach, I wanted to do that for my students too. It's a way that I show that I just care about them. It's just a small little chocolatey, sugary thing, but that's why I do it. Yeah.
I feel like you've now raised the bar. We have to have Timbits now. Like, that's not fair. So,
Yeah.
So, and a whole bunch are saying hi, and all of you, by the way, in the Twitch chat. I guess Lacey will just go down the screen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about what a long, strange trip it's been from September to now, and how terrified I was to teach online, and how kind and funny and smart and engaged and wonderful all the students were.
Yeah.
There were times that, as Lynn said, things didn't go super smoothly, but mostly it went great. And I really appreciate not only the students, but the TAs and everybody pitching in and doing our best. And then when I look now at the exams, when I was checking some exams and marking, and I see how much people learned, I'm just so thrilled with you guys and what you've been able to do. And I've said it before in class, and I'll say again, when we're all back in person at UBC, come by the Biosciences building, and when you see my office, it's like, hey, I was there in 2020, because I'll remember you. I probably won't remember your name, but I'll be happy to see you.
Oh, cool. Finally, we have Karen. Karen, let's hear from Karen.
Hi, everyone. We miss you already. It's only been a couple of weeks without class.
The question is, do they miss us?
Yeah, I know.
Exams are like over, but
yeah. I have to say, I miss seeing you in the mornings, getting up at for our 9 a.m. class, and everybody's there, and, some people showing their camera, some people not. And, but it doesn't matter because I really felt that between the chats and the cameras, the videos, and everyone, you're also welcoming to us. And, I don't know how I would have done if I were a student online personally. And I think that you guys are, I said this in my Imagine group at the beginning of the term, you guys are going to be famous. You're the first cohort of students to go through this like online, full on university. And you're always going to be so revered and respected for that what you're able to accomplish and get through. And, and just don't be so hard on yourself if you didn't do, what you thought you would. I think we're all thinking the same thing. We would have liked to done more if we could. And, we're just people and have limited resources to a certain degree. So thank you for everything and for a great term. And yeah, thanks for tolerating my singing at the end of the term too.
Yeah, I was going to ask, they're all asking for the Glycolysis Song. Is there like what is this? What is it? For those that don't know, you got to at least tell us what the Glycolysis Song is, Karen.
You have to be in my class, Jared. It's between me and my class, so.
That's no fair.
Has a periodic table song that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I guess I should say a little bit myself. I don't know. I have a tendency to like always drone on, so I'll try not to. But I agree with everybody, especially what Zach said at the beginning. Just really proud, and also what Lacey said, kind of terrified. We started this really terrified. None of us knew how this was going to go. Yeah, we kind of had a little bit of a preview in the end of January semester, and those that taught in summer, absolutely. But this full-blown, let's do a full straight-on beginning of the academic year, all virtual with COVID, lurking over us. It was like none of us knew what was going to happen. And I'm actually really happy how it turned out. I mean, yeah, it could have been smoother. Yeah, there were some hiccups and bumps along the way, but also everybody kind of just pulled together, instructors, students, everyone together. I was really happy. So let's segue that into, I have a couple other questions for us to think about. I guess, what were the challenges for us as instructors? And then we'll talk about what we think the challenges for the students were, even though they already know. But what do you think your challenges were? I mean, we've sort of talked about it, but do you have any specific ones? Like, we talked about moving from Colab to Zoom, but anybody want to just mention any of that as well? Like, what were the challenges for us as instructors we didn't expect, or maybe did? So go ahead. I don't know who wants to start it off, but somebody.
Can I start, Jared?
Yeah, go for it, Karen.
Okay, so I think one of the challenges is not seeing everyone. Where we're in classrooms, usually we see your face, and if we say something weird or it doesn't make sense, then we take one look at your faces out there, and you're like, no, that does, like, dude, that doesn't make any sense at all. But we can't see that. And it was just so hard to get feedback. And I mean, of course, it was great in the chat, but I think that was a real big challenge for me, just not being able to gauge where you're at. Like, are you getting it? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? So that was challenging.
And I think that's part of, for me, why it was so much more tiring, is that you can normally do that feedback processing almost with your visual cortex, right? You don't need to do any cognitive processing at all to sort of see how the room is. And now you kind of have to be trying to read the chat. And so I think that made that disconnection was really tiring over the term, and made it very, very difficult to have it be as engaged as I would normally like it to be.
Anyone else want to jump in? Or yeah, Lacey, go for it.
I really missed our 2-stage exams that we do in person, where after the exam, the students would get into groups and redo the exam as a group. And the room would always be on fire with people learning and, oh, I didn't get that one, or yay, I did it. And that was something I really missed. And the exams were so weird to just sit there watching, moderating the quiz on Canvas and seeing everybody burning through it, but not being able to connect in that way, like Karen was saying, that here's somebody that needs a hand on their shoulder, or here's somebody who, should take off their jacket, they're sweating and they look like they're going to faint or something. There's things in person that we can do that we couldn't do separate. But on the other hand, there were things that everybody else could be doing on their own, probably like getting out of their chair and stretching, that wouldn't happen in the middle class. So I guess there was a bright side.
Yeah, I think Karen nailed the big one for me. Is like I think of my lectures as almost like a type of performance. Like it's got a lot of parallels with someone standing in front of an audience at a theater or a stand-up show. You know, it's a lot more similar than people think. And the ability to read the room, like, do I speed up or slow down? Are they bored? Should I add an anecdote? You know, do I really have their attention? And is now the time to make that big connection? You know, like this ability to read the room is really important, and you can't because it's just your own face projected back at you. So, you know, I would try to sense things like anxiety in the chat, or, you know, if people are excited in the chat, but it's an imperfect approximation of that. So that was definitely the hardest. The good thing was I found it a lot easier to switch between media. So that was useful, because in person, if you want to switch between PowerPoint and handwritten or whatever, you have to take apart your audio visual and do some fiddling around. Whereas on the computer, I could just push a button and switch it to another program. So that was helpful, but not being able to read the room is very difficult.
Yeah, so sorry.
Oh, just before I actually, you know what? No, go ahead, Jay and Lynn, and then I'm going to do something with the crowd.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
You go ahead, Dr. Wickenden.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to echo what everybody said. I think, you know, teaching as long as we all have, we can tell when students are confused, because in person, they look at their phones and they look down, they all go like this. And then, you know, either you've said something like they don't get it, or they're bored, and so you can't do that. And so I kind of use the chat. Like if they stop chatting, I'm like, oh, something's up, right? Like I've done something to them that they don't like. So I do miss the in-person thing, although I do agree with Zach. And for those of you who have taught in the chemistry lecture theaters, they have these like old school black podiums of doom that you can't transition well. So me at home at my on my kitchen table, which is where I am now, it was much easier to switch to like a YouTube video when I needed to, compared to the old times. So that was the one, I guess, pro for me.
Yeah. I know one of the challenges that I face that hasn't been mentioned yet is building community in my classroom. Like I really struggled to try and find a way to help build community, but I don't think I ever was able to do that very effectively. And I just think building community in a classroom is incredibly important. I don't know, did you guys do anything that you found really helpful in terms of helping to build a sense of community?
I mean,
everybody's sitting in their rooms and, you know, different things.
I mean, me personally, I did this streaming thing where a couple times a week I would just, you know, get together with them, stream like me playing a game and doing terrible at it and them laughing at me, which they all seem to think was hilarious. So I agree, though, that whole sense of community, and I agree with so many things that people said here, like not being able to see the room, respond to the room, get the feel of the room. And one thing I miss, but I totally agree with you. Oh, sorry, Lynn, maybe I should let you finish. I apologize.
No, I was finished.
Okay.
Finished, yeah.
So yeah, the lack of community, it's tough, right? You're not building really the classroom community. And also, one thing I've always really been intrigued is that classrooms have a personality, and it's so hard to read that personality through Zoom chat. Every class is different. Every group of students is different, and not being able to just feel the back and forth with whatever they are at that time. And I totally agree. It was tough. It was completely tough. So, and I guess what we're trying to do, everyone, is give you a sense that, you know, we know it was tough for everyone, but it was also tough for us. Like we tried hard, just like you tried hard, but we had our struggles too, trying to, you know, again, read the room, be able to get feedback from you, build community, get to know you. It's so much more difficult online to get to know our students. Even a classroom of 300, it's amazing how well you can get to know people when you're with them all the time. So anyway, just to give you some ideas of the stuff we struggle with. Now, before we go on to the next question, I got something for everybody. I set up a little, let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. So if you want, you don't have to, if you want to just watch, but here's a little survey. Just, I thought I'd throw it out to you if you want to give us your feedback, say, you know, what you thought about the semester, and just well wishes. I'll read some of them before we go. So there you go. If you want to fill out those and, you know, we'll get some back and forth. So now I'd like to get a sense from the instructors. What do we think the challenges for the students were? And I mean, obviously students are here, they know what their challenges were, but what do we think they were? And I'll actually start this one if that's okay. My biggest thing I think with the challenge for them is, and this isn't true for everybody, and actually I'd be curious about Jay because he teaches, I think, some second year this last semester, right? So I'd be interested in his opinion on or thoughts on second year challenges for second year students. But for those of us that did primarily first year, and of course not all of them were first year students, but most were, the one big challenge I thought, or the one big, I guess the thing I was the most sad for our students is they essentially were missing out on what is usually a really important first year experience, right? Especially the first semester, they're brand new, they're at UBC, they're at a big university. It's kind of this first time for a lot of them that they're kind of out on their own, and they get to just sort of, they get to meet people and try things on their own. The social aspect of that was just gone, or mostly gone this semester. And I think that was a really big detriment, a really big loss that we had thanks to COVID. Obviously not much we could do about it, but that's what I think was a big challenge, just the complete loss, of the social aspect of a first year student. And so they're going to have to, postpone that to second year, and who knows what that'll be. I'm sure they'll do it, and I'm sure they'll overcome the challenges of that, but that to me was a big one. So anyway, sorry, let me throw it out to the panel, and whoever wants to start with it, go for it.
Yeah, I think like the social aspect is obviously so critical, but I think a knock-on effect of that is the support structure it creates for your courses. So making new friends that are taking the same courses as you, naturally creates people that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of and so on. And then when people are isolated at home, it's harder to create that. I mean, I think you guys did a really good job with, Discord channels and chat groups and so on to kind of approximate that, but it's hard to substitute, people that you really go through it all with together.
Anybody else want to, next person, anybody?
So I also, I mean, from a second year perspective, when I taught in the summer, and what we saw then is because during the time when the pandemic broke, people were being ripped out of their classrooms, they were flying back home. And so I went into teaching being like, I'm going to have to do more review of first year stuff than I would have thought I would have usually had to have done. And so we did, like, I actually cut stuff out of what we were going to, the new stuff, so I could focus more on the review stuff, just to make sure everybody's kind of in like the same ballpark going into a second year course. So we usually don't do a tremendous amount of review, right? Because university isn't high school. So basically you have to remember what you did in a first year course to apply it to a second year course. So we did more review there. So I did realize that. Cohort building, we actually did 2-stage exams online, both in the summer and the fall semester at 233. And what I found is that moderating those, I would often see students just kind of hanging out in their groups after the exam had been submitted. And I didn't want to close down their social time because they were literally just interacting with each other. Because a lot of them had never seen each other before. They know each other by name in the Collaborate Ultra chat. So I think that went okay. There's always hiccups with technology though. So my anxiety goes through the roof on an exam because I'm like, before it was like, oh, is there any typos on the exam? Now it's like, okay, what if electricity goes out? What if BC Hydro has a power failure somewhere? How do I deal with that? So it's that was my anxiety. I had stiff drinks after the exams were done and kept me 33.
And sorry, I should just interject. We had Dr. Ben Chung from psychology just jumped in. That's so great to see Ben here. Can you hear us okay, Ben? I don't know. You're driving, so it seems like we shouldn't be distracting you. Oh, is he there?
Frozen. Oh, there he's back.
There he is. So I don't know. You probably can't talk if you're driving, right? Oh, you're muted, Ben. So.
Hi, I'm completely hands-free. I'm good.
Okay. So, Ben, just what we were discussing is we were just discussing with everybody that's watching what we thought the challenges and what we really felt for our students for as a first year experience, or just, being on an online experience. So you want to jump in on that at some point. I don't know who wants to go next, or if you do, Ben, feel free, but that's what we're talking. If you just want to listen for a second.
Yeah, no, I could go.
Sure.
I'm driving on my way home from a late lunch with my wife, so I don't know when I'm gonna get home, and I'll lose internet briefly.
Was that your wife that just did the peace sign there?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks for joining, even if it's just briefly. Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think the challenges were for students this semester being all online?
Canvas. I don't know if people talked about Canvas before. But I
No,
think
go for it.
from both the faculty perspective and the students' perspective, Canvas has been like, yeah, Canvas has facilitated the transition online, but man, there's so many things that could possibly go wrong with Canvas integration and that have gone wrong with Canvas integration. Because I don't know if a lot of students are aware of this, but let's say when a faculty member is trying to create exams on Canvas or some sort of assessment on Canvas, and they want to extend, like some people have accommodations, right? And so you need to extend time. There are like 3 different buttons that sometimes you need to press in 3 different options you have to select just so that one, the student gets extra time, like the exam won't close on them, and 2, that they actually get the time that they need to write in the extended exam session. So there's just so many different things that the faculty members sometimes have to remember every time they try to do an accommodation exam. And if even one of those things is missing, then I get bombarded with emails from students going, hey, I thought I had 1.5 time, but it closed on me after 1 hour. And I'm just going, I swear I said everything, but then I forgot to click this little check mark under the moderate this quiz section and didn't give the students 1.5. So that was very, that was probably the biggest headache that I got. And then when someone is in that situation, I can't just say, okay, let me open it up for you for an extra half hour. No, because then now I got to create a whole new section just for a whole new assignment entry just for that student for, let's say, 30 minutes. And then I have to remember to go in to moderate this quiz maybe and give this person an extra attempt so that the student can write the exam again. And then when they write the exam again, it's a blank exam because the previous attempts don't carry over. So I can't even be like, okay, here's all the responses that you had in your past hour. You have the next hour to check over your answers, because I can't do that either. So it has certainly not been ideal or smooth with when it comes to exam integration on Canvas. So yeah, that's my rant, and I think that certainly it's a burden for faculty, but also a burden for students as well, because I think as anyone who's taken an assessment before, the one thing you don't want is to sort of in the middle of your exam, when you're sort of in the zone or you're so focused on your exam, and suddenly something shakes you out of that concentration, because you have your train of thought and then you disturb from it, and it's a very jarring experience. And I think that's been difficult for students for sure.
Totally agree. And sorry, just before Jay jumps in, I just want that's a good point. Our reliance on technology this semester has been so much greater, and so there seems to be this like way more things that could go wrong for us. That has been a real challenge. I totally agree. And Jay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I just want to echo the Canvas situation. So students probably don't realize this, but so for example, UBC decided to schedule Chem 233's final exam and all of the first year chemistry exams to occur like at the same time on the same day. And so all the chem profs that were running courses were like, hey, do you think that might be an issue that all like thousands of students will be accessing Canvas at the same time? And then UBC's typical answer to us is like, it'll be fine.
We got this.
We got this. So like Aaron Lindenberg is like messaging me being like, we're going to die, like something bad's. And then when the exam happened, Aaron and I are all sitting there like just like clenching our fingers, and the system slowed a bit. And I swear to God, I just about lost it. I was like, no. And then eventually it cleared as students started to get into the system. And it was like, yes, thank God it made it. But like, that is our worst fear. If something crashes on that level, it just scares me to like to my core.
Terrifies us. Yeah.
Ugh.
I just have to.
Yeah, go, Gregor, go.
Yeah. Solution to all these Canvas problems. Don't use Canvas.
There's the solution. Just don't use it.
That's the one we use.
Yeah. Anybody else want to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Jared, I was thinking, so one of the things that I would continue to do, even if we were in person, and someone mentioned this in the chat earlier, is online office hours. So I think I would still have in-person office hours, but I think I would still have online, because that way a whole bunch of people can join at the same time. So that was great, I thought. Or at least we hope it was great for you too. So if I was thinking about what would I still keep even if we're in person, and I think that would be it.
Karen, I have a question for that. So for online office hours, would you hold them in addition to your in-person office hours, or would you sort of just have an online office hour room that you would open up during your regular office hours and then sort of just manage traffic flow in some way?
Oh, you mean do both at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, I don't think that would work necessarily. So,
okay.
But yeah, you're right. I would have additional office hours that's still online for people that works better for them to just maybe like in the evening, because I wouldn't want to necessarily stay really late in the evening in my office waiting to see if someone shows up, but I'd be totally into being at home and then like making a really nice cup of coffee and then sitting in the computer.
Yeah. Totally agree. Anybody else have any thoughts about that or anything?
Yeah, I agree with Karen. I loved that people would pile into the office hours and they didn't really, a lot of them didn't have any question. They just wanted to listen.
Yeah.
But then by listening, they heard other people's questions and they realized, oh, I'm right in the middle. I'm not deficient in any way. And that guy's got a strange question, or oh, that's a super smart question. But by the end, lots of people were asking questions, not just a small set. And that was really nice to see.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Sorry, I'm just looking at the responses so far from the students, which I'll read some in a few minutes. By the way, Gregor, somebody asked, are you aware of all the Gregor memes on UBC Reddit? They want to know. I'm curious too, because boy, they come fast and furious all the time.
Of them.
If you put out a lot of video for yourself, you're asking for
You're just asking for it. I mean, they're all I love the natural recursion memes. Those are awesome. I just love those. But
those are a lot of fun.
Well, there you go, everyone. There he knows about them. Yep.
I don't know what this program is
about the rest of us. I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to just jump in though about challenges for students or thoughts or what they went through or how we perceive it? Because I know, like, again, I've been monitoring the UBC Reddit because I'm quite involved on there. And also just, again, I also agree. I liked the online office hours. I had sort of dabbled with that in the past here and there, but they really, I think, were a great thing. But it was amazing just how many students came, and all of you might have had the similar experience where, you know, they come and they ask questions, of course, but they'll talk about other things. And again, relating to the UBC Reddit, it's just, it just breaks my heart. I don't know how else, it sounds cheesy, I guess, but that just how many people and students were just so, it was just a challenge for them, you know, isolation, loneliness, just no lack of support. Zach said earlier, just not that support system that you normally have just by actually having friends that take the class. So I just, yeah, there's just, it's been a challenge for everyone. And the students, I think, have really been hit hard. And we just want to know, everybody that's listening, that we know that, or we're trying to understand that. All right. Is kind of one of the points. Sorry, Zach, I saw you waving there. So
yeah, no, I was just going to say that, I mean, not to discount the difficulties of the year, but like, if we go by the UBC subreddit, like the UBC subreddit is always depressing. Every year it's depressing. It's just that there's a lot of complaining, and I don't know what it is about this particular school, because other subreddits for other schools that I have worked at have not been that way. But UBC is just like a strong bias towards like a depressing Reddit, but not necessarily a depressing student body. Like the student body is full of like energy and positivity and awesome contributions. But for some reason, the culture of our specific subreddit is like super bleak, and I wish it was not. So with that as a baseline, is it kind of sets the tone in a bad way. But I'm hopeful that that will kind of boomerang a little bit when people are able to come back in person and see each other. That the tone will get a little happier.
I just touch something in this? Just building on some things that other people have already said. I think missing the whole experience of first year, that I think all of us remember that as one of the most fantastic, and not always in a way that we would be proud of, but one of them, what we want to tell our kids about, but one of the most fantastic years of our lives. And we had a lot of fun. And I really, feel for the students who kind of basically spent most of the term hidden in their childhood bedroom by themselves, trying to learn. And I think they did a great job of one kind of learning. And I think there's another kind of learning that can only happen in those scenarios that we don't want to tell our kids about. So I really feel for them having lost that experience. Another thing I would say is, UBC is a school that's gone all in on active learning. We're not a super high tech learning school, but we're all in on active learning and pedagogy, right? That is our strength, absolutely. And so it's particularly unfortunate, I think, when we moved to online, we were one of the hardest moves to online because active learning was just such a, right? If we had been a super, super high tech, massive learning technology school, we could have moved to online a bit easier with a few fewer bumps. So, I really just would say to you students, everybody I know really tried to make the active learning thing work on online. It was one of the hardest things to carry over. It'll be great when you get here in September, though. It'll be greater in the spring because we'll be one term better at it. And it'll be, I think you'll really see something pretty fantastic when you get here in September, because UBC is pretty good at this active learning thing. By and large, we're pretty good at it. So I just think it's particularly unfortunate that one of the things we're so good at was one of the hardest things to get over the bump.
And I just one thing I'd say is, in a way it's great, but also in a way I feel terrible that it seems like the source of most students' support for their own mental health and mental well-being was other students. Because I think people creating all these group chat groups on Facebook and people creating all these Discord channels but on their own, I feel like it's more than what us faculty members were able to do to support them, what the university has been able to do to support them. So amazing that students were able to find their own ways to support each other. But I really wish that there had been more infrastructure in place to absorb the mental health challenges that the students were facing. And I have to say, I mentioned this on one of my rants on Twitter, one of my many Twitter rants, that I think more so than anything that the university has done, the students have contributed the most to my mental health this term. Like they helped me, and they helped each other much more so than what the university had been able to do.
Yeah. And sorry, Jay. Oh, sorry, Ben. Keep going. Jay, I saw I think you were waving earlier. I don't know if you.
Yeah, so it's kind of a different line. I agree with what Ben is saying in this case. I agree with that. I mean, I have no idea. So when a student would approach me, I have areas that I can refer them to because I'm by no means an expert in helping a student with mental health type situations. So I would refer them there, but it's not a perfect system by any means at all. But the other thing I wanted to say is to give a shout out to all the students that are international and all those that are in different time zones that got up and did the best that they could. We worked our butts off to try and make it as good as possible, like the best that we could do, but we know that that is an issue. So we are trying to make things available to you in the weird time zones that exist that aren't Vancouver, not weird, but different time zones, I should say. So good job, like showing up to class, good job participating in doing what you did. Like that's an accomplishment, because Lord knows, as a 21-year-old, I wasn't getting up at 3 a.m. to go to class. I wasn't getting up at 3 a.m. for any reason whatsoever, except maybe if I was leaving the bar, I'd have to be going home first. But
Oh, there's a story.
Were you still up at 3 a.m?
I was still up at 3 a.m.
I feel like we just found the next topic.
Yeah.
So the bars in Boston closed before 3.
So they closed at 2 when I was an undergrad. But then there's a lineup for the hot dog guy and all the stuff. Yeah. So then by the time you got home, it was 3, right?
Perfect time to sit down to an online lecture.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to comment? Otherwise, I'm going to read some of the responses from the students that they just put in the survey. There's some good responses here.
Actually, I gotta run.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, Ben.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. Yeah. Thanks
You
for
as
coming
well. And good to see everyone. And have a happy holidays to everyone who's watching and everyone who's here.
Yep. No, same to you. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. So, it was great that Ben could come out, and hopefully he's, gets home safe driving. I'm just going to read some of the comments here. So I asked the students a couple of things. One, said, what's some positives from this year? Because we know there's lots of negatives, but can you think of any positives? So a couple of people have pointed out is they like the fact, and I disagree with this, the technology wasn't bad in all cases. They could rewatch lecture videos, and that actually was really helpful. So that's, of course, I remember a lot of my students said, it was really nice to be able to do that. And they also really liked the chat. I do think that the Zoom chats, quite a few people here have mentioned Zoom chats. Yeah, it was a little distracting in some cases, especially when I was doing it and I could see the chat in the corner of my eye, like flying by. But I think being able to ask questions on the fly with low pressure situation, rather than having to put up your hand and say it in front of 300 people, you could ask it, somebody else could help you, or a TA was there. So they definitely liked that. Lynn, you're getting lots of, actually all of you are getting lots of props from all kinds of students. Vivian, who didn't make it, getting lots of props here. Zach, people really liked your Chemistry Can Save the World video. I've been hearing, basically everybody came to my class after and goes, dude, you got to be more like Zach. So, so they loved that. They loved that thing. So so they're mentioning that as well.
Excuse me, as a microbiologist, I don't know who's saving the world right now.
I feel like we're about to have an arm wrestle.
Yes.
Arm wrestle moment here.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. You all saw my quiz question on Reddit, right? The one where I basically slammed all the STEM disciplines except chemistry. So I win.
Oh yeah, next time in person day, you're on.
Yeah. And also another comment here, the camaraderie ship that comes with collectively doing poorly or struggling during the class with online. There's a certain camaraderie that comes from that. That's kind of a cool idea. I mean, no, we don't want to hear people doing poorly, but the sense that the idea that there's actually a whole group of people going through the same stuff that we're all going through actually is a sense of, teamwork, camaraderie. So I agree with that. Is there any other ones here? And some people actually, that's true. People are saying, I'm actually a bit more shy, and being able to meet people in Discord and group chats and Zoom chats actually worked well for me. So it wasn't a complete loss. There's lots of good things that could come out of it, which is kind of nice. Online office hours, I'm getting a lot of those too. So we already covered that, but they liked that for sure.
I make fun of Trump pretty frequently.
Oh, hey, funny you mentioned that. I have that right here. Jay's Trump jokes.
Yeah.
Jay's Trump jokes. There you go. That came.
That is just you got, like I'm afraid the Secret Service is going to show up at the door being like, the orange baby down south needs to talk to you for a minute.
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
So I normally, don't talk politics ever in my class at all. This this year on election day, I just didn't even care. I was like, why is this difficult? Do we vote for the friendly grandpa or the orange monster? Like, why are we having this conversation?
It was a weird election, that's for sure. Also, I have to ask, somebody said Alexis singing Frozen in Chem 233. Okay, Jay, I feel like there's a story here.
So
come on, man, you got it. What's this Alexis singing Frozen? What's going on?
I have a 3-year-old daughter, and my wife works for the hospitals, so she's at work every day, and we didn't have childcare. So while I was teaching, I also had my 3-year-old daughter running around in the background, and she is 150% into Frozen, like at a level that is just. So I'm teaching, and then I have to occupy her for the hour, right? And so I would put on Frozen. So often my lectures had this background music of like "Let It Go." She was also into the Little Mermaid for a while, so it was like it was calypso music going on in the background. It was a good time.
You basically were doing 233 to an entire Disney score. That's funny.
Exactly. Yeah. So, or Paw Patrol was a common background song that was going on. So yeah.
Oh, funny. Speaking of music, I will read one comment that was about me. I actually had a few comments that people liked it when I played bass guitar. This is my bass guitar right here. So after a lecture one day, I turned on the amp and played some jazz on my bass guitar for them. I can't remember how they got me to do it. This class has gotten me to do all kinds of things. They got me streaming and they got me playing bass guitar in front of people, which I don't normally do. So anyway, there we go. There's one comment on that. So we brought some music into the world, into academia. That's, I guess, a good thing. and Karen did her Glycolysis Song. Let's not forget that. I still actually haven't heard this, and I'm really going to have to make a point to sneak into one of her online lectures to hear this. So, for sure. Have I ever showed my yo-yo tricks? I have done yo-yo in front of my classes because I actually use my yo-yo to explain certain things about DNA. So yes, in person, I've done the yo-yo. I have done that. I don't have one near me, or I'd throw it now. They're all put away, but anyway. So speaking of, so we mentioned some positive things here. So to the instructors, and I don't want to keep it. If you have to go, please do. But this is really great, and everybody's really loving it with the chat, or according to the chat. What do you think has been inspiring for you, or great moments you can think of? Like just things like, it's been a tough semester for all of us, but what stuff have you really liked or experienced that you really are happy that happened? And I'll just start real quick. One thing I've really been impressed with is this is the first time where I've actually had people show up to office hours, students show up to office hours, and spend the first 5 minutes asking me how I'm doing. That never happens in person. It's not like, they walk in, hey, how you doing? But here they're actually asking about how I'm feeling and doing and coping with the online. And I always found that so touching that they did that. It was really nice. So that was one thing I was very inspired, that the students were actually also worried about us. I don't know if that's true when we're in person. Maybe they don't ever think about us that way, but this time they're actually worried about us, which was awfully nice. So anyway, that's one, I'll throw it out to the group again.
I'll say a thing. In our fourth lab, so we were doing fast friendship procedure in our labs because we were trying to get some of that sense of social grouping in the lab, because lecture was sort of too big for it. And it started out great at first, and then people were getting less interested. So in our fourth lab, we said, well, what we're really trying to do is get them to talk to each other about learning and stuff. So take a deep breath and ask the lab to talk on Zoom about how online learning is going. And we took a deep breath because we were really afraid it was going to be like, it's terrible. And that wasn't what came back. The discourse in that fourth lab about students helping other students with real concrete, real specific, really good advice. Oh, I do this, I do that. It was really spectacular. And that, I think, is when we knew that the rest of the term would be okay, because people were so engaged and in such a thoughtful way about, well, what's the way to make this work? We learned a lot, and we adjusted some of what we were doing based on it. And that was just really fantastic, because we were worried that it would just turn into a gripe fest about how difficult it was, and it couldn't have been more the opposite of that. I think that was the most inspiring moment for us. All the TAs and instructors talked about it for like a week.
I think it was the same in Bio 112. The tutorials really were a bright spot that Some people said it was the only time they got to talk to other students during their week. And so Karen and Jared and Nellie put so much work into getting those ready over the summer. And then it's a little terrifying to ask the question, but when you ask and then you hear people say, oh, thank God I got to talk to other people when they would actually talk in breakout rooms, then it was great. And I don't think we had too much dud breakout rooms. People could correct me if I'm wrong.
Zach, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one kind of interesting thing that came out of doing this was that the barrier to meeting people outside my own department completely disappeared. So I've never met anyone here except Jay. So I've met Jay in person. We work in the same department, but you know, I know Gregor from his infamous Reddit memes, and you know, that's about it. Like prior to this term, I hadn't met anybody here, and you know, the difficulty with which I communicate with people in my own department is now the same as that with which I communicate with anybody on campus. And so, you know, getting together to talk about our teaching experiences with people in other departments simply wouldn't have happened. So when Gregor was talking about how students got together and talked about what's working, what's not in online learning, that's actually now translating across the university. Like I get to hear from you. I wouldn't have heard from you in previous years. And, you know, I find that really interesting. I hope it continues, to be honest.
No, that's great. Anyone else want to chime in? Well, until that happens, by the way, oh, sorry, no. Does anybody else want to chime in? I'm sorry, I'm trying to respond to some of the questions here, follow them in chat.
Well, I was going to agree with Zach because I think that one thing online learning has done for us as educators, because I think a number of us like know each other, have been around for a while, and so we do lots of things together, but then there's a whole group of people we don't know and don't get to interact with, and we're kind of in silos a lot. So we have like the biology group and then the chemistry group and the physics and computer science. And so what's great about this online learning is that we've really shared you know, with everybody sharing with each other, saying, hey, have you tried this? Have you do this? And we know students don't like this, but they really like that. And that's been really awesome. So you all probably don't know behind the scenes that that's going on, but it is like, there's a lot of sharing amongst us. And so your feedback is really important because that gets shared quite broadly. So I think that's a really cool thing that's happening on a higher level than ever happened before when we were in person.
I guess I would just like to add in that what's most inspiring to me is the students themselves. They're totally my inspiration, like their positivity, their enthusiasm. I had them do this group project where I asked them to delve into a subject in biology that they were passionate about and to tell a story about that and share it with me. And I'm so incredible. Their stories are so incredible. Like I've learned so much from them. They're so talented. I told them in the very first class, I talked about Joseph Campbell's hero story and how I saw each of them being a hero in their own journey. And they're definitely inspiration and definitely a hero to me for what they're going through. I would not do well in the current situation, and I'm so like proud of all of them. Like, I don't know how to adequately express this. It's just, they are definitely my inspiration. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in?
I think, Lynn, you're right on. I agree 100%. And when we heard in the media, you know, about the math thing or whatever, and people said, oh, online, that must, you know, just, are you worried about cheating? And I said, I don't want to talk about cheating. I want to tell you about all the students in my class that are so
exactly
wanting to learn and doing the right thing. And those are the students I want to put my energy into. And if we can think of ways to frustrate cheaters, na boo boo. But besides that, I thought I just wanted to.
Sorry, Lacey, I got to say, I'm so happy that we are going to have now recorded Nana Boo Boo for all of eternity on this stream. That's amazing. I'm so excited that we caught that.
I just agree with Lynn completely. That I think that that's why we do our job, right? Is because students are fun.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think that's been the hard part is we all do this because students are so much fun and not being with them sucks. I've got to say, it's terrible. I mean, we've made the best of it, but oh my goodness. Anyway.
I miss lab tours. The chemistry department, we usually do a lot of lab tours, especially for first years, because you want to show people all of the cool gadgets we have. And, you know, when you go into an active research lab, there's reactions running and all sorts of interesting things going on, and you can take them through it and let them have a look at it. And couldn't do that. So I'm hoping when they all come back, some people will still come for lab tour.
Yeah. Cool. So, first of all, it's just one comment. I'm just seeing from the chat. I don't know what you guys are doing in chemistry, but apparently you're raising the bar for online lectures, Zach and Jay, because everybody's saying you guys, we need to mention that the chemistry recorded lectures are amazing. So like, yeah, high five to you, I suppose. Holy cow, you're raising the bar, making the rest of us look like Luddites or something. I don't know. So good to know. We got to watch yours.
I grew up with like a cohort of like really funny people, and so like the group of people I know from high school, we were all like stand-up comedians almost, and that transitions, like my ability to talk to a screen and joke with the screen is just like, so I think that's maybe what it comes across well online, perhaps, is that I don't take myself too seriously and I joke a lot with the audience. But yeah, that's good to hear that students liked it.
Yeah, no, they seem to be, if the Twitch chat's any indication. So somebody asked, here's a quick question, if everybody still has a bit of time. One person was asking, how did all of us way back to when we were in university, how did we make friends and find like our support group of friends and close relationships at university? How did we do that? Does anybody remember? I'm trying to think. For me, it was just, I remember how I made my closest friends at university is I just ended up going to all the same science classes, and I ended up sitting in the same place all the time. And I just ended up talking with the people that also sat in the same place next to me. And I just got to know them, and that was kind of it. It was nothing special or mystical. It was just, oh, hey, I saw you yesterday sitting here next to me. Let's chat. So, but it worked. So, Zach, I saw your hand up there. It's so funny. We instructors, we put up our hand. It's so hilarious.
Well, it's Zoom, right? So it's very easy for us to just be polite. No, I remember it in first year, making friends was just about kind of volume. It was like just chat with as many people as possible, and you would sit next to some random person, introduce yourself, sit next to another random person, introduce yourself, and most of those, never see that guy again. But eventually, when you just chat with enough people, you would eventually connect with someone, and then they might introduce you to different people. And it took me a while, actually. Like I think I was well into term 2 before I made a group of friends that stuck. That I hung out with consistently, and actually, funny story. One of those people I called yesterday is one of my best friends. We were catching up from first year, so it took a while. Like even in person, and from first year, it took a while to make a real solid group of friends. But it was just about, just randomly chatting with people. I think in first year, people are a little more outgoing than their default. So many people are thrown into a university where they don't know anybody, and so there's kind of a culture in most schools, including this one, of introducing yourself to someone you've never seen before, whereas this is not something that people just out in the world tend to do. So I'm hoping that in second year, for those of you that are new and you come back, that you'll kind of reproduce that and just be a little more outgoing than you otherwise would, because you can meet some great people that way.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to jump on that question?
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead and talk to people. Sorry, Karen, you go ahead.
No.
Okay. You have to just meet a whole bunch of kind of strange people, but then you're going to find strange people that click with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess I'm sort of a good example because I end up marrying. Well, I guess indirectly. So, my husband was in like Sauder School of Business. So I didn't have anything to do with those people until I met them through a friend of a friend. So, but I just wanted to say, like, the friends that I have now are all people who I met at university. And so they're still my friends. And so it is an amazing process that you go through when you meet people and you stay. You're not going to necessarily be friends with everyone, but these are going to be people in your life, with you for the rest of your life. So it is truly an amazing process that happens. And what I do is encourage you is, don't just stick to your friends in your discipline, whatever that may end up being too, like keep those friends outside your discipline, because not only will they know where all the parties are, all right, but they also will be there to support you too, and understand in different ways. So
Any other thoughts? Anyone? Yeah, Jay.
So, I mean, I kind of had I had a weird situation. So I didn't really meet any friends until second year of my undergrad. And so I just kind of found people that had the same approach to school, right? So like you find those people that take it as seriously as you do, or don't take it, like it depends on the type of person that, how you want to be at university. And so I met a group of people that I still interact with to this day, and we studied late at night on campus, and we did a lot together. It was a good time. I agree though that you should have friends outside of your own discipline, because nothing's weirder than only having chemists as friends. Like Zach knows the pain, right? Like you're at a party and it's all chemists, and you're just like, well, we have nothing in common other than some advanced stuff. So let's talk about chemistry. My wife hates it. She's like, oh my God, you're the weirdest people ever.
Very few of my undergrad friends were in chem, actually. It's most of them.
Oh,
were
really?
in other subjects. Yeah. I had chemistry friends, but just exactly like you said, you want to go to parties where there's some diversity there.
Yeah.
So somebody's sorry, how do I pop out never mind. Somebody's saying I can pop out the chat. I keep moving it over so I can look at the instructor chat. How about just talking about, so one of the people on the panel just said we should just talk about failing and why it's not the end of the world. And it's funny because at the end of my class I do a little outro speech, as well as those in my classes will know. One of the things I talk about how learning to cope with failure is actually an important thing, and how it's so important to actually make the distinction between experiencing failure and being a failure. And those aren't the same thing, and we often conflate them. So does anybody want to talk about that? Just to, yeah, go ahead, Jay.
So I've had this discussion before, and for students, the first thing I'll say is that I failed exams at university. I'm not a perfect machine bot that just got 100% on everything. And the second thing is a failing grade is really just a representation of you at that particular time, right? So other things happen to people, like there's life events that can occur that affect your ability to study. So don't link a failing grade to any sort of intelligence. Don't think you're any less intelligent because you failed something. It's often the product of the fact that something unfortunate happened, like somebody passed away that was close to you in your family, or you're under an enormous amount of stress. So there's a lot of things that come into play there. So don't be too hard on yourself. If I know that's easy for me to say, but honestly, I mean it. It's like, don't go too hard on yourself. It's not the end of the world. And you can easily make up from situations like this.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
If I could add to that, like to the students listening, success is not the absence of failure. Success is your ability to recover from failure. 100%. Like a successful person is the kind of person that falls down 100 times and gets up 101. Like that's the difference between success and failure, is the ability to recover. It is not the absence of failure. And every single person you will ever meet in your life, including every single person on this stream, everyone you're staring at, has stumbled in various ways, including myself. And an ability to recover from that, keep going, keep looking forward, keep looking upward is what leads to success. So, if you've encountered failure you didn't expect, I mean, so have I at different parts in my life. And you just gotta kind of, redirect that energy, think, how do I learn from that? Let's keep going.
I totally agree. And I'm sorry to speak for everybody here or say that everybody that you're staring at on the screen has experienced failure lots of times. I actually tell my students this. So my students that have taken to my classes, they know this story. My very first biology exam at university, it was funny, I still remember this. It was genetics, and I did really well at genetics in high school, and I was a little bit cocky with my friends. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to totally nail this exam. And as I tell my students, it's like the universe just took out its sniper rifle of humility and pointed it at me. And it was just a terrible experience. And so, because somebody was asking, does anybody here ever failed an exam? Oh yeah, well, I can't speak for the rest, but yeah, I know what that's like. So it definitely has happened, right? And so, anyway, I don't know if anybody else has, but if you want to talk about that, but feel free.
I would just add one thing to this, because I notice sometimes there's a lot of cognitive dissonance for students when we're talking about this failing thing and it's all fine. And they're like, you have no idea what you're talking about because I feel like HELL right now. And the thing I would say to you is what we're saying is true. And also it feels like hell when it happens. Yeah. So don't, just let yourself feel bad. Do not kick the cat. Do not kick the cat. Do not kick the wall either, but kick the air. Scream and holler, do a little bit of that because it does feel bad, but it's gonna be fine. I just like to point out that it does feel bad right away because otherwise I feel like there's this cognitive dissonance of we're saying, oh, it's just fine. People are like, I don't feel fine actually. And you don't, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And especially if there was a bad thing that happened to you this term, that's the reason why. Well, in that case, just don't even kick the air. So, stuff, sometimes it's just too hard to get it done. And everybody has experienced I had one too many thing going into it. And then the world gave me another one and I didn't get it done. And that's just life.
Yep. Anybody else want to jump in? Yeah, go ahead, Lacey.
Well, for sure, I'll never forget the time that I got a 30 on a midterm and I said to my friend, is this marked out of 50? I didn't.
You got to be out of 35, right?
Yeah. But I agree with what Gregor says, not to minimize how people are feeling right now. I think where we're coming from is we've seen people come back. So I know I had a student who did a master's in my research lab, and she had always wanted to go to med school, and she failed in first year and second year of a couple courses, and she ended up doing a master's in my lab and applied to med school, and now she's a doctor in Cowichan. So I always tell people that when they say, oh, I failed, my life's over. It's not over. You can bounce back, but you have to change what you're doing. Everyone in my class knows I always promote the science pure academic coaches because they help you change what you're doing.
They're great. This is being recorded, so I hope my brother doesn't see this. My brother went to UBC.
The tell-all is about to happen.
Yeah,
like
and
he's going.
And he actually failed, not exams, he failed classes. And now he's been a veterinarian, which is even more competitive than medical school, for 25, 30 years. So the fact that he failed a class, that didn't close any doors for him. I see and totally respect what everybody says and how it feels, because it's not a good feeling, but I really think that failing at something, that's such a pejorative term, but failing, it's an opportunity to learn. It means that you have to learn something to get to the level that you want to be performing at. So take that as an opportunity to figure out what went wrong so that you continue to improve, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, you had your hand up there.
Yeah. So a piece of advice I give to students too is the student views an assessment material during term as like a grade, right? What's my grade? But often we as educators are viewing it as feedback to you. So if you're not getting the grades that you want, and that could be like, oh, I got a 98 and I want a 99 on this. Take the feedback at that as well, right? If you're getting like 62% on the quizzes leading up into a midterm, right? It's to be expected that your study habits are leading to the 62%. And then if you want a higher grade, you've got to do something to those study habits to get a higher grade, to alter them to make it work. So, the grade is a thing. I'm not trying to minimize that, but it's also like, listen to what the assessments are telling you, right? What are we looking for? And don't discount that going into the second term anyway.
Yeah, Zach, go for it.
Yeah, there's actually building on that is a pattern I've noticed having taught first year so many times that marks are often used by students as like a projection of their value as a person or their value of self. And there are a lot of reasons why that is. Like UBC attracts a lot of very top students who typically graduate high school, win lots of prizes, win lots of medals. And you stand in front of your graduating class and they say, this person is so great and so intelligent, we're going to give them a medal for how great marks they get. And sometimes it's family, you know, puts pressure on you to do well and creates a perception of your increased value as a person because you have good marks. And it's important to recognize exactly what Jay said. Your grades are feedback. And that's, you know, that's really what it is. And some of the most successful people I know actually bombed first year, completely bombed first year. And I know successful people that did well in first year, right? So like your value as a human being is not dictated by your grades. It's feedback. And what's meant to happen is you look at them and you reassess, do I need to recalibrate? What can I take from this? And that's where it stops, is, you know, don't let it change your perception of, you know, what you can contribute.
Yep. Okay. No, that's great. There's a couple of, how's everybody doing for time? Because I know some of you were limited. Everybody okay? Just so there are a couple of questions. One, somebody just, how do you professors conceptually learn everything in all your classes simultaneously and seamlessly? For me, it's just, that's what happens when you teach it over and over. Like we always say, the best way to learn something is to teach it. It's just like doing it over and over and going and reading about it and like discovering things. That's how I learned a lot of this stuff. You know, because I mean, I have a weird, like I was a molecular biologist undergrad, then I went and did chemistry as my PhD, and now I'm back to teaching biology. So I've kind of had to learn some of the stuff again. And just by teaching it usually is the best way, which is why I tell my students, get into groups and teach each other. That's how you're going to learn stuff seamlessly eventually anyway. So to you guys, how do you learn your stuff? Is it just, you're all just born geniuses? Was that it? Somebody tell me. You were born with this knowledge, right? Jay is laughing. Why don't we start with Jay?
If you all knew how poorly I did in high school chemistry, it would be so. I mean, when you spend, like, I'll say, when you spend 15 years or more in a discipline at the highest level, and I've taught the Fisher esterification for 7 years, sometimes twice a year, you learn all there is to know about that particular class of reaction and how to present it to students in what you think is a meaningful and appropriate way. So, you know, I say this to my class too, is like, you know, it's easy for me to do this, like conceptualizing things in 3 dimensions and molecular structures. I'm like, I can do this, no problem, but I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, you have to practice this to get, you know, the dope level skills that Jay has obtained over the years. It's, you know, it comes with that, right? It's not like Fisher projections are a thing in chemistry. And they didn't come easy to me. I remember bombing those questions on my second year midterms, like being like, what the hell? Like, why would they come up with these stupid representations? And yeah.
So you weren't born as a stereochemistry Jedi master? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, not at all. No.
Okay. Zach, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I think the classic quote is, the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like Jay said, you know, if it seems like we can build molecules in our sleep, it's because that's literally been my entire job for 15 years. So it's it's not something that comes naturally. It's just a lot of work.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Yeah.
I also just want to add in that if it's not clear already, your instructors, us, we're some of your biggest cheerleaders, and we really want you to come and talk to us. Like, if you have questions about anything, or if you just want to come and talk to us about a concept or a subject that you're interested in. So if you're looking at mastering material, I highly recommend engaging with your teaching team, with your peer tutors and your TAs and your instructors. Like, we know that you can do well. We want you to do well, and we want to help you, like, to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I echo that. It's nice when people come and talk to us in office hours about this stuff, about anything. Although, like I said, a lot of my office hours lately was, you need to be more like Zach Hudson. So I take that with a grain of salt. Like, after that whole chemistry saves the world thing, I got to be apparently Zach. So, you know,
my
cool.
Wife Zach, and she's like, why don't you do what Zach does? Like, God damn it. Like,
everybody needs to be Zach, apparently.
Yeah, it's just like the Eiffel Tower is named after, like, scientists. Like, geez, how can we compete with that? Donald Trump, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, that's funny. So anybody else want to jump in? Say anything?
Don't be too impressed. We're doing our thing. You all are doing 4 or 5 or sometimes 6 different subjects.
Yeah.
Right? If you saw us in the other 4 subjects represented in this call, it might not be so pretty.
Yeah, that's true.
That is so true. That is so true. That, it's easy for us to do this really well because we do it literally all day, and that's the only thing we have to focus on. I will say this to students, like, for example, I communicated with Vivian Lamb about when the exams are going to take place in Bio 200. So we are aware of the workload that's there. We try and space it out so it's appropriate, at least, because we don't want to overwhelm students with coursework, right? We know that there's a lot there, especially in the online stuff.
Yeah. I have one other question here quickly. Somebody was asking any advice on how did we find what we were interested in doing or passionate about as a job? How did they go about it? And for me, that's weird because I've changed my career like every 6 years. I just one of these weird wanderers that just wanders the industrial and academic landscape. But how did all of you come to find your passion and what you do for work, which, research or teaching or whatever it may be? Anybody want to jump in on that, since I've had a few people ask that? Twitch chat, excuse me.
Jared, I can say I had one aha moment when I was undergrad at McGill, and the instructor had a huge big screen full of a picture of a cell with an electron microscope. And I thought, I want to learn how to use electron microscope because I really liked art, and I could see that was a way to put art and science together. And then I spent 10 years just not knowing what I was doing, but just having fun with it. So I didn't make very much money in that time. My husband used to joke that he was a patron of the sciences instead of eventually it got me a real job, so it was good. But I just remember that time of realizing I could put art and science together, and it really was exciting.
Anyone else want to jump in on that?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I was the opposite of you, JT, in that, like, I always wanted to be a professor and was like laser focused on doing this. And I think to figure out what type of thing I wanted to teach, I mean, my best advice is to try it. So I say this to my own classes for those of you that were there, but undergrad is such a great experience to try a bunch of different things in a practical setting for short periods of time.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance to work in, say, just using chemistry as an example, like an organic chemistry lab for 4 months after second year, and then maybe you want to try working in a quantum mechanics, chemical physics lab, maybe you're into the life sciences and you want to try that out. Like, you can, during the term, volunteer 1 afternoon a week with the molecular biology. Like, you can do these little things that are very different from taking a job for several years at a time to kind of test drive it. And that lets you see kind of where your strongest aptitudes are and where your strongest interests are. So I encourage everybody to do their best to reach out to professors or the different research institutes on campus and give it a shot, because jobs aren't that long and it'll give you a sense of if you like it.
Sorry, just real quick. I know, Karen, does anybody have to go, or how is everybody for time?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go, but I just wanted to say that's what university is about. Taking courses in different subjects, and don't try to pinhole yourself too much into one area. You'd be surprised what you really like. I thought I wanted to do engineering and maybe architecture. I ended up in microbiology. I never took biology in high school ever. So that's my kind of story. And I think that just keeping an open mind about, what makes you really excited. I think, that's why you're at university. So just keep, try different things, try different courses, and, you'd be surprised. And on that note, I'm really sorry I have to get going, but thank you all. Thanks for listening to us. And thank you, everyone. Have a happy holiday.
Thanks for coming out, Karen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye too.
Okay.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming, Lacey, as well. And
Also,
you got to go too, Gregor? Okay, well, we're going to be wrapping this up, I think, shortly. So thanks for coming. Appreciate it, Gregor. It was great to meet you.
thank you for organizing.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So for those that remain, Are you all leaving, or are we? What do we want to do? Jay, you're in for the long haul. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I had somebody looking after my daughter, so I'm free.
Oh, okay. And Lynn, how are you for time?
I can stay. I still have final exams to finish marking, so I can stay till about 3:30.
Okay, so a few more minutes, and then Zach, how are you doing for time?
Oh, I don't have anything to do.
Okay, so maybe Jay, Zach, and I will play a game here on with some students on stream in a bit. But is there anything else, anybody, like for the four of us left, that we want to? Yeah, Jay, go ahead. Let's.
Yeah. So my path here was like I didn't do very well in high school, and so I had to go to college, community college, to upgrade my grades to get into a university. And then when I got there, I was a science student, like all science students. I'm going to med school. And I think that comes from the fact that you just don't know the different job options that exist beyond professionalism, like doctors, dentists, lawyers. And so I went through med school and I was like, okay, well, what if I don't get into med school? Like worst case scenario, like what am I going to do? So I chose chemistry because the MCAT at the time had chemistry on it. And I just found myself liking particularly organic chemistry more and more. And so I got into grad school at UBC. And then I found, I like the research stuff, but I like the teaching aspect of it too, like the TA work and interacting with students and showing them what I thought they were getting hung up on and how they could improve their stuff. So it's kind of like a meandering story. I don't think, for me, it's like a rudderless boat. I just it kind of just pushed me all over the place. And here I am. And I mean, I love my job and I love interacting with students and hanging out with other faculty members. I think it's great. Universities are really cool places to work because like, your ideas matter, right? And that's our currency. And it's like, well, what if you just let people think about things? What comes out of that process is really great ideas. And so that's what I still like working here to this day. It's a great place to work.
Maybe I would just add on, I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was about 30 years old. I used to drive my parents nuts because they'd be like, well, what are you going to do? And I wasn't sure. And honestly, it wasn't until I was actually a graduate student and I walked into my first lab to teach. And by the end of that first lab, I walked out and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Wow. So I love Dr. Wickington's idea of like this boat without a rudder. It was very much a meandering path that I took, just following my heart and experiencing things and keeping an open mind, right? But I hope you guys don't feel pressure, like that you have to somehow make a decision when you're 18, 19, or 20 years old. Like I was basically 30, and I have a friend, Tag, who at the age of 40, married with two beautiful girls, decided he wanted to go to med school. And so, and he's now been a doctor for 7 or 8 years. So sometimes, and I think it's actually really normal, it takes a while to sort of go on to figure out what you want to do. And it comes from experiencing a lot of different things, I think. Yeah.
Any other comments from anybody? So somebody's asking, this is an interesting question. I want to do educational research, like how students learn, et cetera. How do I go about that? It's funny because I actually did my postdoc back in, I don't know, it was like 2012 or something, at UBC in the Carl Wyman Science Education Initiative. That's how I started. And UBC is actually pretty good at that. Now, I went back out into industry for a while, so I'm a little out of touch with what's going on there now, but maybe one of you three know. As far as I know, UBC has adopted some streams for people that want to learn how to teach, essentially, in the sciences. So there's graduate classes and graduate, even little small programs that are designed just for people who want to teach science. Is that correct? Does anybody of the three here know about that? As far as I know, there are some small certificates. And so so let's put it this way. UBC is trying more and more to promote the science of teaching and learning for people that want to actually go out and teach well. So there is some of that, and more schools are doing that. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of just look at the schools that you're interested in to see if they offer those kind of programs.
Yeah, we actually just had one of our faculty members, Jackie Stewart's been approved for a PhD in chemical education. So that's a new thread that's coming down the pipeline.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Going forward. But if you are interested at the university level, even in the Department of Chemistry, we have what's called the Research Learning Experience. And it's a opt-out of a teaching lab experience where you can do educational research with somebody like me. Like I'll submit projects and the student can pair with me and do that work. So there are options in university as well, but in the teaching college, I'm not sure of how it operates there in the STEM world anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is at like an undergrad level.
Yeah.
Seems to exist more at a graduate level.
Mhm.
With the idea that if you're going to teach at university, you probably have to go to grad school anyway. So sort of makes sense, but that's a good question.
I found it ironic that when we start teaching at university, we don't get any real formal training. Like high school teachers get like, they go to college and they learn. And so like, and this may be a surprise to students, maybe it's not a surprise to the students here, but they basically, what happens when you get assigned to a course and you're brand new teaching is somebody hands you a stack of notes, like poof, and be like, have fun. And then you have to figure out pretty much how to operate all that on your own. Like, how are you going to interact with the students and office hours and all that stuff is all kind of up to you. And some of us had never actually taught lectures before. So the first one I remember doing, I was dry mouthed. I was so nervous. I was like, you know, you're worried that like Einstein's in the audience and they're going to be like, actually, that's incorrect. And I'm like, oh God.
I mean, that does happen once in a while.
It still happens.
Still happens. It's not that often, but it does happen.
Yeah, it was. So this career was described to me as, you know, one of the only jobs that takes 10 years of school to learn to do 10% of it. My actual training is in like synthesizing materials for organic electronics and displays. Like that is what I am trained to do. And that is what I was taught to do. I was not taught to teach. I was not taught to, you know, manage lab accounting or grants or finances. I was not taught to be a, you know, therapist or whatever different roles you have to play for graduate students that are struggling. Like there are so many different parts of my job that you just kind of have to figure out on the fly. And a lot of it comes from mentorship. So if you aren't sure how to do something, you can kind of ask a senior colleague or any colleague, you know, how would you do this? How did you handle that? And in particular, the online transition involved a lot of, I would say, rapid mentoring, which was just, I tried this yesterday and it was a disaster. Don't do it. Or, you know, I tried this success. So academics, I think, we're trained to do very little of this, but like we are good at kind of talking to each other about what works, what doesn't. And that's really how I learned to teach, was just like a combination of osmosis and asking people sort of, how did you do it?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And yet here you are raising the bar for the rest of us, Zach. So good on you.
It's just
so Lynn, I know it's 3:30. I don't know if you have to slide out here, unfortunately.
Yes, I have some exams to finish marking by tonight.
Yes,
so.
well, good luck with that.
Thanks for having me, and to everybody in the audience who I can't see.
Yes.
Congratulations on finishing your term.
Yes. First years, you made it.
You did. Woo! Well done. I hope that you have a wonderful, well-earned break, and hopefully we'll see you in the new term.